The night after I broke the rule was the worst I'd had since moving to the farm. The whispers didn't stop. They were louder, clearer, almost tangible, like they were brushing against my skin. I'd close my eyes, desperate for sleep, but all I could hear were those voices, pulling at me, tugging at my thoughts. It felt like something inside me was waking up, something dark, something that had been there all along, lurking beneath the surface. I couldn't escape it. The next day, I tried to ignore the whispers, tried to push the fear down. The sun was out, and I had work to do. The fields needed tending, the barn was falling apart, and there was always something that needed fixing. But no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much I focused on the task at hand, the whispers kept following me. And then I started seeing things. It was subtle at first. I'd catch glimpses of movement out of the corner of my eye, shadows that didn't belong, figures that didn't quite make sense. I'd turn my head and nothing would be there. But I knew what I'd seen. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't just the shadows either. It was the air, the way it felt thicker in certain spots on the farm. The barn, for example. Whenever I got close to it, the whispers would change. They'd grow more frantic, more desperate. It felt like something was trapped inside, something trying to get out. The night after I'd seen the shadow at the barn, I couldn't stay inside anymore. The whispers were too much. I had to know what was happening. I had to understand. I grabbed a flashlight and headed out, past the house, toward the barn. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the fields stretched out before me, empty and silent. I moved quickly, feeling like I was being pulled toward the barn, drawn by something I didn't understand. As I got closer, the whispers grew louder, clearer. They were all around me now, inside my head. "Help me. You shouldn't have come." I pushed the door of the barn open, and it creaked as it swung back, the sound piercing the silence like a scream. Inside, the air was cold. Too cold, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. The walls were lined with old, decaying tools, abandoned hay bales, and broken equipment. The stench of mildew filled the air, mixing with the cold, stagnant air that seemed to linger in every corner of the barn. I stepped forward, the beam of my flashlight flickering as I moved deeper into the shadows. The whispers were louder now, a chorus of voices that seemed to be coming from all directions. "Come closer, we're waiting for you." Suddenly, a figure appeared in the corner of the barn, a dark shape just barely visible in the shadows. I froze, my heart racing. The figure was tall, slender, with no face, just darkness. I could feel it, the weight of its presence pressing against me, suffocating me. The figure stepped forward, and I felt the chill run through my body straight down to my bones. I tried to move, but my feet were glued to the floor, paralyzed by fear. "You've heard the whispers." The voice was low, raspy, like it had been trapped for years. It wasn't the wind anymore. It was something else, something far more ancient. "You shouldn't have broken the rule." I tried to speak, to ask what it wanted, but no words came. My throat felt dry, my mouth too parched to make a sound. The figure took another step forward, its form now clearer in the dim light. It was a person, or it had been once, but now it was a hollow shell, its skin decaying, its eyes empty voids that stared into me, through me. The whispers grew louder, now all around me, overlapping, becoming a single voice that filled the entire barn. "You're one of us now." The figure reached out toward me, and I felt an icy coldness that burned into my skin. The moment its hand touched my arm, I gasped. The world around me seemed to shift, like the barn was no longer the barn, like the air itself had warped. Suddenly, I was somewhere else. I was still standing in the barn, but the barn was different. The walls were covered in vines, thick and twisting, and the air was heavy with the scent of decay. The whispers were now clearer, more frantic.
I could see them, spirits, trapped in the barn, moving restlessly, their eyes hollow and lost. There were dozens of them, standing in the shadows, their faces twisted in pain. They were the ones who had come before me, the ones who had broken the rules. I could feel their despair, their anger, as they reached out toward me. I couldn't move. My body was frozen, my feet stuck to the floor as the spirit closed in around me. They reached for me, their cold fingers grazing my skin, their eyes filled with desperation. You broke the rule. You came to us. I was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. The whispers, the spirits, everything was pressing in on me, trapping me. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I couldn't. And then, as quickly as it had started, everything stopped. I was back in the barn, standing alone in the darkness. The air was still. The figure was gone. The whispers had faded, but their words remained in my mind, echoing. You're one of us now. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I looked around the barn, the faint light of my flashlight illuminating the empty space, but everything felt wrong. The walls, the air, the very land beneath me, they felt alive, and they were waiting for something. I turned and ran, my feet pounding against the floor as I scrambled back toward the house. I didn't know what I had gotten myself into, but I knew one thing for sure. Whatever it wasn't over. Not by a long shot.
The days blurred together in a haze of dread and confusion. I tried to tell myself that what had happened in the barn was just a bad dream, a figment of my imagination, fueled by fear and exhaustion. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The barn had been real. The spirits had been real. And the land, it had changed me somehow. It was like I wasn't just living here anymore. I was becoming a part of it, and it was becoming a part of me. That night, I stayed inside. I locked all the doors, shut the windows, and pulled the curtains tight. The last thing I wanted was to be out there again, in the dark, with those whispers and shadows following me. But even inside, I couldn't escape it. The house felt alive. The walls seemed to breathe, and the floorboards groaned beneath me, as though something was moving just under the surface. Every little sound felt amplified, as though the house was trying to speak to me, trying to warn me. I lay in bed, my eyes wide open in the darkness. The whisper started again, soft at first, but then they grew louder, more distinct. They weren't coming from outside. They were inside my head, swirling around me like a storm, pulling at my thoughts, demanding my attention. You're here with us, they whispered. You're one of us now. I gripped the blankets, trying to steady my breathing, but it was like the air was being sucked out of the room. My heart pounded in my chest. I could feel the weight of their voices pressing in on me. I couldn't escape them. They were everywhere. I heard footsteps again, but this time they weren't just in the hallway. They were inside my room, moving slowly, deliberately, just behind me. I could feel the presence, just out of sight, watching me. I turned, my heart in my throat, but there was nothing there, just darkness. The kind of darkness that wraps around you, swallowing everything in its path. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. It was like the fear had frozen me in place, rooting me to the spot. The whispers were growing louder now, more frantic. Come to us, they beckoned. We've been waiting for you. I bolted upright, my mind racing. This wasn't just some ghost story. This was real. The spirits in the barn, the rules of the farm, they were all connected. I had broken the rule. I had crossed the line I shouldn't have. And now I was trapped. The land, the woods, the whispers, they had claimed me. I had no idea what they wanted, but I knew it wasn't good. It wasn't just haunting me, it was changing me. It was drawing me deeper, pulling me closer to the very thing I feared the most. I didn't know how much time had passed, but when I finally gathered the strength to move, the room was silent again. The footsteps had stopped. The whispers were gone. But the air was still thick, oppressive. The feeling of being watched hadn't left. It never did. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to leave. I had to get out of this house, out of the farm. But the moment I stepped outside, the world felt different. The air was colder. The woods just beyond the fields seemed darker than ever before. The trees swayed, but there was no wind. It was as if they were alive, waiting for something, watching me. I turned to look at the house. It stood there, silent, ominous. The barn, too, loomed in the distance. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened to me in the barn, whatever had followed me, was still there, waiting. I knew I couldn't stay, but something deep inside me, something unnatural, told me I couldn't leave either. The land, the farm, it had already claimed me, and no matter how far I ran, it would always be there, lurking in the shadows. The whispers returned, softer now, like a lullaby in the night. "You're one of us," they sang. "You can't leave. You're here forever." I didn't know what to do. There was no escaping it. The house, the land, the whispers, they had taken hold of me, and I was powerless to stop it. The more I fought it, the tighter the grip became. And the longer I stayed, the more I felt the land change me, twisting me into something else. Something I didn't recognize. As the days passed, the whispers continued. Sometimes they were soft, almost comforting. Other times they were harsh, demanding, like 1,000 voices echoing in my mind. But they never stopped. They were always there, always watching. The woods, the barn, the house, they were alive, living things, and I was becoming part of them. A part of the land's curse. I wasn't just living here anymore. I was trapped, and there was no way out.